There we go.
Yo, welcome back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Black Nerd Fridays. As always, we talk about sci-fi, anime, we drink good beer, etc. I got my co-host with me, the queen of the budget cosplay or cosplay
Yes.
on a budget, Kinky
Cosplay
Sub.
on a
You
budget.
know what I'm
We have
saying?
to
You
be.
know how you do. You already know. And of course, D Neal. The podcast king is running late, but it's all good. All
Well,
good. Today,
we gotta call out why he might be late though. I mean, he is
yes,
canning his beer, right,
yeah,
for the
yeah.
Jubilee that's happening at Oak Park Brewing. So if you're
Facts.
in Sacramento, definitely go check out that event and also go support our co-host Dino because his beer will be there. So
Facts. He's supposed to have that.
welcome.
What's that? The party tomorrow, October 2nd. So it's going
Mm-hmm.
down. Definitely going
Yep.
down.
Yep. He's
But
canning
today
it today.
we
Yeah.
talking about Wicked City today. Mine ain't as refined. I am Mr. Refined, but mine ain't as refined as my co-host Dr. Suds over here. You know what I'm saying? But it's all
Ooh.
good. We talking about Wicked City. When two become one. So as
Ooh.
always, before we get into that, we're gonna talk about what beer you have today, if any.
Exactly, because we also celebrate people who don't drink as well,
Yeah.
but for the rest of us. But you know me, I always go on themes, right? Every single time. So this time I thought I would do something that was actually provided to me by my co-host.
Love it,
And
love it.
and this one's called Whams Below, Whams Above, Whams Below. And I think it just made me think of like as above, so below. And there's actually a movie out at that title that was actually pretty good. But the reason why I picked this is because we're talking about humans and demons. And typically we think of demons that are down in hell. So I thought that this would just be a really good one. I mean, although I think they're kind of going for more of like a above, like we're below, and thinking about above in space. But I still think that this kind of goes with the theme ABV. And the beautiful thing about this, because Mr. Ryan paid attention, I love my stout. So this is a coffee stout brewed with, and I forget what other flavors they add in here, but absolutely fantastic. And the brewery that this is coming from, again, is out from New York, but this is Prison City Brewing.
Mortalis
So,
is the brewery, and Prison City is the ones they collaborated with.
oh, that's who it is. Okay, so I
Now,
absolutely, it
fun
smells
fact
great.
before you keep going. Fun fact: they do have an original can. That right there is that collab right there is
Yeah.
something a little different, but their original can is called As Above, So Below, which is their flagship stout, and people go crazy for it, crazy, crazy.
I
So you got
love the
another one?
name. Oh, you know what? I do, and I was thinking about it.
All
I was
right.
thinking about it, so we'll see how I get through to it. But this one here, it's called Other Half, because I thought, with the name,
Mm.
well, we're doing two become one, other half. This is
Mm-hmm.
an Imperial IPA that's at 8.5%, and I have to say this here is Forever Mosaic. It's a double or an Imperial IPA, and I just think that this, like, I mean, look at the can art. It's really simple. I love when you can do some can art that's like really simple like that, right?
Love it.
Really pretty color. So we'll see. These are some big hitters today. Imperial, and you got your coffee stout, so it should be good. But this coffee stout smells amazing. Just saying. Just saying.
I like that. I like that. Well, I'm gonna talk about what I got. Mine ain't that fancy, but it's hidden. Today I
Nice.
got the limited time offer, also from Other Half.
I
Now I'm
love that.
focusing on this for a lot of reasons. You see that right there, the Mastercard, the Dank
Oh
symbol,
yeah.
Other Half
Yeah,
truck,
yeah.
and it's also at a 10%. But I'm focusing on this for one reason. We talking about Wicked City. Wicked City is very old school. It's made in 1987. So this gives me the vibes of being back at that time frame, watching those infomercials and stuff. Here it's only for a limited time offer. You got to ship, you buy it now, you get this amount off, etc. So it gives me vibes of that.
Yes.
So I'm like, let me drink
Yes.
this joint. So we're gonna pour up, but while we pour, we're gonna do our usual. You know what I'm saying? When we talk
Yeah.
about our show, what
Yes.
is the good, the bad, and the ugly? And I got some thoughts on all that, but
Mm.
I
Mm.
really want to know what's your good. What you think about it?
Good. I think when you think about anime from back in the day that were kind of the what you call it, the 80s style anime, that one really gets me because it had you knew it was from the 80s, like you just know. Color wise, it had a very limited color scheme too. It was like blue, reds, and blacks with a little bit of white, right? Maybe some
Facts.
other colors here and there, but it was very, very limited on the colors. So I love when they do that. There was some really nice cinematography. The way it opened up in the beginning with the cityscape and the clouds, and just hearing the guy's voice talking over about what this was about. Absolutely love that. I do think this idea of two worlds kind of trying to learn how to be together and that they're putting together these treaties, I thought that that was pretty cool. And the idea of like demons, typically we think of demons that have like horns and they're like really disfigured. This was really putting demons into this different category of kind of along the lines we think about vampires, that they're far superior because they have these body enhancements. And I thought that this was pretty cool because it reminded me a lot of the other movie that was out during the 80s called The Thing. And it's just with the
Mm,
what's his name? Oh, I see the guy who played in Escape from LA, Kurt
Kurt
Russell.
Russell.
Kurt Russell's The Thing version, his version to me is always the best. That
Facts.
is what this reminded me of because when there were certain parts that happened in the movie, which we'll talk about, it was like, man, that really reminds me of that movie. So I really love that hardcore 80s feel that was with it. So that's my good for it. I
I
got some
like
things to
that.
say for good and for the bad though, and
Yeah,
ugly.
I like that. I like that. I'm a kind of go with you on that. I actually enjoyed watching, the whole cinematography as always. And I'm an old man. That's probably why y'all call me Mr. Refine. I'm very nostalgic with a lot of stuff. I like that 80s vibe, that feeling when you're watching something and you might get a 1980s jazz club sort of feeling, or based upon how the colors look or the cityscapes, etc. I like all that. So when I first looked at it, it made me think kind of this movie that not too many people seen, Cyborg, with Jean-Claude Van
Oh
Damme.
yes.
Classic movie. I was getting vibes of that, mixed it with a little bit of Blade
Ooh.
Runner and stuff. So I
Oh
liked it.
yeah.
And specifically that storyline of, the demons and humans having this thing going on together, this treaty that they was trying to broker at the time because it was getting hot between the two. I thought they pulled it off very well. And the music was
Oh
music, man,
yeah.
music makes everything. It sets the
Doesn't
mood, it
it?
sets the tone for what's going on. And if your music ain't hitting, then to me, I personally feel like ain't
Hey,
nothing going on. So they did their thing. They definitely did their thing on there. Let's talk about what your bad was. I want to know about that. What was your bad?
my bad. So I have to say, some of the drawing of the females, like their heads look kind of long. And I don't know why, but I've noticed this a lot in these older anime that the drawing was a little off from like certain angles, right? Which
Facts.
again, you have to think about the time, so I won't knock on it too much. But I do think the other thing, and this kind of flows into my ugly, so I won't go into it too much. It was just certain the 80s animated films have always played into the same kind of like categories and certain tropes, and every single one it's either there's a lot of fan service or it's really over the top, right? So for me they played into it a little bit. I do think one of my bad that also just really was irritating was the guy that they had to protect. um my art, I just can't, he was so annoying from the very beginning. And there were just certain things that the main character, Taki, was doing that I was just like, dude, did you not learn just from the previous scene? But there was just like certain things that they were doing over and over again. I'm just like, okay. But again, I had to remind myself that this is an older animated film. So they're going to
Hmm.
continue to play into that because that was what the theme was. So my bad was that they kind of played into that. But again, had to go with the times.
I like that. I like that. Very well said. I kind of agree with you on that aspect, but I'm gonna go a little deeper. For me, I really, really appreciate it, even though it was bad. I appreciated the aspect of my art because to me,
He got on my
this is just
nerves.
my opinion. He made it. Like he was cheesy. He had a lot of negative stuff going on, but he was cheesy. Now, again, they dropped the ball on some different aspects. They had a lot of sexual things going on, and this was kind of
That's my ugly.
what was
Yeah.
going on with back in the day at that time. I felt like they were pushing that a little bit too heavy. With one of the demons had, I don't want to tell you, like, she had a vagina on her chest pretty much, and was
Yo,
telling the
yeah.
guy
And it was
to
talking.
yeah,
Don't
it
worry.
was just weird. It was
Meet your
a lot going on
demise.
wrong with that, but
Tell me.
overall, I feel like they could have did better. It was very short. They kind of got right to the point, but they had some holes in there that they could have filled up and they missed on there. So, my ugly might be a little worse. So we're gonna get into that next.
Oh
But
yeah.
obviously, I'm gonna go back to my co-host, and we're gonna talk about that.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna piggyback off of what you talk about with the whole sex themes. Let me tell you
Yeah.
something. It was over the top. There was a scene where this like parasite with Maki,
Yes.
and it was like, oh,
Yes. I
okay, so
already
that's where
know.
we're going. This is where
Yeah.
we're going with this. It was like constant. It was like she was just an object. Sure, she had some depth to her. She was, I think that they tried to bring it out a little bit with her character by saying, oh, she's of the black world, which again always is denoted as something negative, but she's from the black world. And
Mm-hmm.
she's kind of a traitor and she's like siding with the humans and she has a soft spot. Great, cool. I would love to know why she switched over because she did have lovers and from the black world, but now she's switching over to wanting to protect humans. Well, why is that? They didn't really go into it too much. And then but it was like everything after that, she was just an object, right? Her ex-lover came in, he was like, "Oh girl, I'm gonna take this however I want." Okay, cool. Okay, and then she has this parasite who's like out in the open. I'm like, okay, and the rain is falling. I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? But again, it was like overly sexualized. And then
Yes.
her punishment because she went against her people was like, let's just have this damn gangbang on this girl. And I'm like, what is going on? So like to me, it
Yes.
was just like it was like over the top. It just kept going. It kept going. And so for me, it was just like, they really made her feel just like they minimized her, diminished her down to the smallest thing of just being a sex object, and that was it. And she had so much more to her because she was viewed as a really great fighter. Like she had top-notch skills, but that wasn't highlighted. And I think the other thing too for me is that they always showed a lot of women, and they always made references to like the guy, Mr. Myart, said to Taki, "Oh, you're a well-endowed fellow," or how the fact when Mr. Myart was at the the massage place, the lady was like, "Oh my, I didn't know you had all that." And I'm like, "Well, you're going to show the women, you might as well keep it even and show us what
Yeah.
the guys are working." But no, they didn't do that. So that's my ugly. I just felt like it was over the top, and it's like you didn't keep it balanced for the men and women, in my honest opinion. So
That's very well said. It's funny that you say that. I actually thought when I was watching it, I thought that they were going to show that aspect of him because, as you said, they showed a lot of sexuality in there, a whole lot, specifically with the women's genitalia. There's a lot of that going on,
a
and they didn't
lot.
show anything with the men. So for her, the masseuse or whatever, to be talking the way she was to my art was crazy. Now, the same token, I didn't like how they pretty much they over sexualized every woman on there, and they only had, from what I
Everyone.
remember, three.
Yep.
And every last one of them had something sexual going on, whether it was their looks, whether it was one of their talents. So, for example, the demon, she had a spider web coming from her vagina. Like, what is going
Yeah.
on here? I don't understand the purpose of that.
Yeah.
So, they had a lot of negativity with that aspect and a whole lot of over hypersexuality stuff going on. And the innuendos that they kept dropping in there, just a lot of different things. Even with Meyer, they're driving in the car with him, and this is the first couple minutes, and I thought he was absolutely hilarious. Again, I thought he made the movie to me, but
Irritated the hell out of me.
yeah, he was funny as hell to me. His voice, he's missing like five. He only had five teeth in his
Mm-mm.
mouth. But to
Mm-mm.
watch him sit in the car and his focus is on Maki, and of course, what is he doing? He's rubbing her leg, and he's like,
All
"Oh,
kinds of stuff.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, I hear that to have sex with the demon is like paradise and having ecstasy and stuff. And before I die, I want to experience that." He's focusing on everything that has nothing to do with why he's there. So
Exactly.
I feel like that was a little too crazy, and I personally feel as though they could have did better. They could have stayed a little bit on script, and you would have had a better storyline if you to give us a little bit more in depth of what was really going on, because all we knew was that he was there for treaty, and we didn't get too
That's
much out
it.
of that. So
Nope.
I don't know.
And I know, and the way they set it up too was like you think there's going to be this meeting, when really they kind of like flip the script in the last few minutes. You go, wait, what?
Facts.
Okay,
Facts.
so that's the treaty. Okay, cool. I get
Right.
it now.
Exactly. Now this is perfect. It leads right on, perfect segue to my next question. Who and what was the black guard? What was that about? What was your thoughts on that?
The way that they made it sound like it was like they had already had some type of conversation with the other side, the black world, uh, to what they were trying to do in the end. So, spoiler alert, it's this idea of trying to kind of create a way for these worlds to really come together. Because these treaties, of course, you sign these documents. Okay, they last for a few hundred years, but is there something that can actually bridge them together? And I thought that that was something. And now I'm starting to look at other movies that have done this type of like kind of twist to it. Like I think about Underworld and how you had the
Mm,
Lycans and the vampires, right? How they're coming together, and oh look, it's taboo for these two to kind of cross over. So I think it's pretty interesting that the Blackguard, at first it seems as though they're like, well, we're trying to establish peace, but then they're like, well, was there a way to kind of maintain this a little bit better? So to me, it was like the Blackguard almost came off like a very specialized unit of like the CIA, type of a thing, where they, get tasked with trying to maintain peace or to try to eliminate top targets. That's what it felt like. But then the guy Taki kind of felt like he was like, if you think about the Blackguard as like the, 007s, right? That he was kind of like trying to be like the James Bond, but he was just having some really bad problems because every chick that he was choosing had some type of thing wrong with her in some type
facts.
of way.
Bad choice
So,
of
although I
women.
will say I did laugh at the first part when he got with the first demon and he had to like push himself away. I was like, clearly, dude used his third leg to get away, but that was just me laughing at that. But I do think the Blackguard is serving more of like this like overarching, you know, organization that's trying to maintain peace and they have their agents that go out to do that. So that was my
Mm,
take on it.
okay. I like that. I actually looked at them more as personally as like a Men in Black sort of thing. Um
Ooh, I
they
like
were
that.
meant to keep the peace or the coexistence between humans and demons kind of silent and keep that together. So let's say, for example, one of the demons stepped out of line, and you will have Taki, who was, I felt like he was more of a playboy than anything because he always was dealing with women, like the way he carried himself. But for
Mm-hmm.
example, he would have to step in and make sure that there wasn't any issues going wrong with any of the demons, and he would pretty much put them in their place. And all right, you go back to your side because we coexist and we have a treaty, etc. Now, what I got out of that was something was happening to where the tension was going on between both sides, and that treaty was about to be up. Like that little peace they brokered was going to be done. So the Blackguard
Mm-hmm.
were designed to protect individuals from both sides to be able to maneuver around and get things done. So it
Yeah.
was interesting, but again, that's something I feel like they dropped the ball on, and they should have gave us a little bit more history and backstory as to who
I
and what they
wish.
were, because I just put it together based upon watching it. And that
I know.
leads, like, to my next question. What is the difference between good and evil? And we talk about our aspect based upon this show. What is the difference between good and evil?
Man, I think they automatically put demons into this evil category
Hmm.
automatically. Um, but it seems as though to me, the fact of how they were viewing the demon women, that it and this is something that this is something that you know Dee has talked about all the time, like how humans are just so evil, right? So that
Hmm.
along the lines, I just think it's something that, when you think about it, I think they both had their aspects to it, but it's just really, really interesting to see um, how, they did that. Like how did they really play on this idea that automatically anything that's demon is going to be evil, and you have to watch your back, and you got to make sure that you do, like all these things, right? But I do think that in this regard, I think it was just this idea that people who had these motives of what they were trying to do to me were the evil ones. It didn't necessarily mean it was just simply humans or simply demons. Like they were on either side, right, that had some evil tendencies. So to me, I took it as though the evil ones are ones that had this type of alternative motives, and that if they were trying to kind of further their own gains, and those are the ones that were evil, and the good ones were trying to establish and keep this peace. So to me, that's how I took it with good versus evil.
I like that. I like that. Very well spoken. I think that personally, it really wasn't a good and evil. More, it was more of a gray area. If you watching, and again, as D says, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. Um, Humans have this tendency, not all humans, but most, this tendency to do things that are like against the grain or that are unnecessary, whether it be using of resources, whether it be taking advantage or having power over somebody. Normally, it ain't us, it ain't black people. We don't like to get into all that. But if you pay attention to that, just in society, Humans have that. So when you're watching this movie, you look and you understand that demons are supposedly bad. That's what they're supposed to be because they're from the other side. But the reality is anybody can be evil and anybody can be good. It's based upon your actions, it's based upon how you treat people. And I really looked at that way as I watched this movie, that the demons that they did show, yes, they were bad, but they had a few that stood out specifically with Maki. Maki was a demon, but she was
Mm-hmm.
also a member of the Black Guard, and she also was someone who did good deeds, as we will say. So I personally think that it's kind of like a gray area because the show is trying to draw a line with black and white. Like, all right, if you're a human, you're automatically good, and if you're a demon, you're automatically bad. Which to me, that's kind of
Right.
relating to us as a culture. All right, black people, you're automatically bad. White people, you're automatically good. Nah,
Exactly.
it depends on your actions because you can be a black person and be evil based upon what you do, and you can be a white person and be evil based upon what you do. So it works both
Facts.
ways. And for them to draw that line so defined was like kind of crazy to me, but I get it. It's based upon society. So it's a pretty, deep conversation there. And like I said, I enjoyed it. And it is what it is. That's what we got next. What we got next? Hmm. What is a mystic and how does it relate to this story? That's the question.
Man, mystic. I think in this regard, when we think of a mystic, you're thinking of someone who's able to kind of foresee things, right? So if they're able to see what's going to happen, someone who can maybe manipulate things to happen a certain way. And there, I think they kind of touched it in a little bit when you think about that one demon who had the lovely vaginal opening on her chest, where she was able to kind of like lure you in, like, tell me all of your secrets. It's okay.
Yes.
Like, it was like really pulling old dude in, right? And I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? But
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he was able to kind of snap out of it and shatter, I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right, dude got a stronger will than what we think, right? I do think that then, and there was something that just that the Mr. Meyerard had stated, um, kind of along the lines like he knew this was going to happen or something along those lines, right? Like he was thinking ahead. So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like they were kind of alluding to the idea that some of these individuals, because like they said, he was supposed to be some type of great prophet who, could tell things. He was like close to 200 years old, so he was like a key essential piece to this. So I feel as though there was a lot of things happening behind the scenes, things that were strings that were being pulled to try and get this type of union between human and demons to actually happen.
Mm.
So to me, I feel as though with the mystic point of it, it was like we're trying to manipulate the situation to what we want. And so some were trying to manipulate it towards peace, and others were like, no, screw that. We want to manipulate it in our favor for this. So I think that was the way for me. It felt like that's how they were going with the mystics.
I like that. I personally think that first off, we already know if you're watching this, the mystic was definitely Maillard. Giuseppe Maillard was his name. The guy was shoot, maybe 3.5, 4 feet tall. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go with
if
three and a
that.
half feet. I'm gonna go with 3.5 feet. He was listen. The dude was dressed, real
In a
suave and
tracksuit.
casual. He had the whole Adidas track suit on. You know what I'm
I was
saying?
like, oh, they
Like,
need now some gold change.
yeah, like he was chilling. I was waiting for him to possibly have a gold chain on his neck or
That's what I'm
something,
saying.
some rings on or something like that. But my art
Something.
was a mystic, and when I think of mystics, I think more of like Doctor Strange. So you have the
Mm,
ability to do a lot of things. Now he didn't have that potential that far to be able to
no.
manipulate time and space and move objects around and break them apart and put them back together. He didn't have that, but what he did have was the ability to have foresight. And in this storyline, in this movie, that helped see what was possibly going on. So I'm watching a series right now that kind of relates to the same thing. It's called shout out to HBO Max called Foundation. Um,
Oh yeah.
so what's happening on here is you have Maya who's able to foresee that all right, we got tension on both sides, and if this continues, it's going to be a war again between humans and demons. So what I need to do is I need to be the one who brokers the peace in between the two and make sure that this trade or this agreement gets held up, this pact gets held up. So that's why the black guy were protecting him, etc. But he, as a mystic, he had the ability to have the foresight. He had the ability to manipulate, if you will, and make sure things moved how they were supposed to move. Because I was very surprised at what happened later on in the story. Spoiler alert: he was able to
Yeah.
move them to around the way he wanted to. But mystics are very, very highly regarded. The guy was 200 years old. I'm gonna say he was probably older than that based upon
Yeah.
how his body shape was and everything. I'm gonna say he might be 300 because he said he was 200, but he was like, I can't remember. So
Yeah.
I feel like
The
he
other
was,
thing too,
yeah.
the other thing too about it with his foresight when they in the one part when they were gonna go pick him up at the airport
Hmm.
and the plane blew up and they're like, "Oh my God, did he die?" And he was sitting over there chilling, eating a bag of chips, which I thought was hilarious. He's like, "Yeah,
Yo,
I kind of figured that was gonna happen." I'm like, "Dude, you could have at least let somebody know, because
yeah,
200
facts,
people just died because of you." Nah, he was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna eat my chips over here, standing on
facts.
this pole. I'm good." I'm like,
And was sitting there throwing like popcorn at him and stuff at the same time. Yeah, he was something else. I really liked him. Like I said, he was the character to me. He made the show. If it wasn't him, it wouldn't be good. That's just my opinion.
okay,
All
I didn't like
right.
him.
So since we know what mystics are able to do, perfect segue again. Are we as humans easily manipulated? And if
Yes.
so, why?
Yes. Yes. I listen, you don't even have to finish that
You didn't even
question.
hold back.
Yes. You know how, listen, you know, in your own situation, right? Like if you think about in movies, let's just stick with movies for a second. In
Yeah.
movies, they have always shown how easily humans can be manipulated, whether it's emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
physically, right? Wait,
Mm-hmm.
in this one here, like we kind of saw it a little bit because like dude was waiting on the girl in the very beginning. Taki was waiting on the girl in the very beginning. He said, "I was trying to get with this girl for 3 months."
Ah,
Let's point
facts.
this out for a second. He said, "I was
Facts.
trying to get with this girl for 3 months, and she never returned it until now." Now that
Mm-hmm.
should have been a red flag to old dude. So let's just be real. It took you 3 months. Is she just now getting to you? Either
Facts.
she has someone else or she just wasn't interested.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just keep it true. So then when she comes out, an old girl is just like straight from the get. Like when they went back to her place, she didn't have no, let's have a conversation, let's drink some wine. She was like, old girl went and just showed out, and he was like, I didn't know he was gonna move this fast. Again, dude, that's for second red flag, but he ain't listening.
Mm.
Why? Because he's thinking with what? So he
Mm-hmm.
was easily manipulated into just going right into it. Like, dude was just like, oh, hold on, okay. He didn't even question it. So to me, it was like, of course, they played on that trope that men are easily influenced or manipulated through physical, right? Through the
Right.
visual. They played on that. But again, we have seen it time and time again. You probably have friends, you probably have had your moments of weakness as well back when you were, before you got into your relationship, where you were just like, so you're just like, hey, that looks pretty good. So they played on that, right? But then we've seen
Mm-hmm.
it in other movies too, where they talk about this emotional aspect, where someone may be lonely and someone plays on that piece to try and get them to do stuff. I mean, he did it a little bit in Ex Machina. So, of course, there was a bit of physical manipulation there, but she
Yeah.
also played on his emotions for like, can you, like, you understand my struggle. I'm in this cage. And he fell for it. He fell for it. So, like,
Mm.
we've seen it. So, it's not like we don't have examples in the real world as well to show that, because we hear of all these stories about people getting swindled out of money. We hear about these
Mm.
people getting swindled into doing things for their partner because if you do this for me, I swear I will always be with you. Like, you hear this happening all the time. So
Facts.
yes, we as humans are easily manipulated. We can be. Some of us can be. And I think that I think most people try to have up a guard, but if someone actually learns what your buttons are, there is something that's going to make you want to do something, whether it's because you're trying to protect family, because they're playing on a soft spot on you, financially, whatever the case may be. Everyone has that price, right? Some may hold out a little bit longer, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually you will either you're going to say, I'm going to end this in a way where I don't have to worry about making that compromising decision, or you do make that compromising decision. But it is, I mean, there's emotions that are playing into it, physical. We can't, you have a certain pain tolerance that you're going to take so people can torture you into doing things. But again, we
Mm-hmm.
can be manipulated in that way. Until we reach a higher consciousness, I think that might be a way for us to overcome that. But for now, yes, humans can be easily manipulated depending on the person and situation.
Okay. Well said. Again, as always. And me and you are kind of like neck and neck. Normally, as we always are. Normally, is
Always. D
normally
is
you
always the
and
one
D.
going off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I like that. I'm gonna jump right into that. To me, I agree with you again. And in this case of this movie, his Taki was more manipulated by two things.
Hmm.
He wanted to be valued and respected by that his boss. I don't remember the boss's name, the old
Yeah.
man that was playing
The guy
golf
with
in
the
the office.
glasses and the cough. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
He wanted his respect. He really, really wanted his respect. So he would do anything to make that man happy. And at the same time, again, I viewed him as a playboy based upon how he moved. And like you said, he waited 3 months for her name started with a K, Kokono or something like that. He
Mm-hmm.
waited 3 months for
Coco.
her, and there was a bunch of red flags. So as humans, we have a lot of things that cause us to fold or bend to whatever it is somebody's trying to do. My art was the puppet in this specific movie. If you paid
Yes, he
attention, he was
was.
moving pieces around, and I didn't know until the end. Like I felt as though something was happening, but I didn't realize it would be him, especially considering the stuff he went through. Because number one, he's a mystic. Now I don't understand if he was human or a demon
Yeah, they
or a
didn't make
mix
that.
of both. They didn't really talk
Yeah.
about that. But if you pay attention to him, his manipulation or would be women. He's always
Mm-hmm.
worried about
Oh,
women. Like he's looking at the
boobs.
Playboy magazines. He's like, "Oh, Playboy, and
He's
let's
like,
go
you want to
here."
go there? Yeah.
Yeah. So when you watch that and you realize that people have things that will cause them to move, like you said, whether it be financial, whether it be sexual, whether it be
Hey,
emotional, whether it be somebody's actually holding something against you, like saying, all right, if you don't do this, I'm gonna do this to your family. We
right.
always have things that manipulate us and allow us to be controlled or move the way somebody else wants us. And what happened in this movie specifically was Meyer moved them in a perfect spot to get them
Oh yeah,
exactly where he
a
needed to. But
union.
exactly, and but the crazy thing was in this case, it wasn't for his benefit. It was for everybody because he understood what was going on. And then you watch this, you see all the things that are happening. Like they didn't get in depth, but you know what's going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He put it in a position where everybody would benefit, and in the end it would be something better. And this is why I had that, why when two become one as my as the
Mm-hmm.
theme on there. So I think it was, as always, we get manipulated easily. And
Yep.
if we allow ourselves to be controlled, whether it be social media, because we get manipulated with that too,
All the
with things that
time.
pique us. Like if you're shopping and you look on something, you might not buy, but you're looking on something and you didn't buy this in your cart. Later on, you might be on Instagram and it'll pop up on there, or you forgot to purchase. You know what I'm
Or better
saying?
yet, they'll do this. They'll send you an email because you shopped
Mm,
with them before. And it's like, oh,
facts.
25% off, 50% off. And you're like, and you go over there. It is like ridiculous the amount. And then like this is the thing that gets me with algorithms. Like they're great when you think about just the ability to kind of churn through data and analyze that on people and learn
Hmm.
a lot about a person just from like what they're shopping, what they're interested in. Like it's a lot of information. But at the same time, those are things that are private and
Yep.
they're playing into you wanting to buy that or to they know what you want to get into. They know that you want to buy that outfit or you want to buy that thing, and it's like it's been sitting in your cart for some time. Let's entice them by bringing the price down when the 50% off that they're giving you, it's really the price it should be. But
Facts. Facts.
this is really interesting when you think about that, right? Or like if you go to buy a car, and they tell you
Mm,
all the time there's certain things you're supposed to do because a car salesman will latch onto that, right? So you go in there with the price and you stick to it. If you know that's all you can do, that's all you do. Stick to your guns because they're going to start coming back down on stuff. Well, we don't really need to include that fee. I'll talk to my boss to get that waived. And you're like, okay. Okay. And then like the other thing that they always talk about too is if you're a woman and you're going in to go to a mechanic or you're going
mm,
to go get a car, they're going to automatically assume, oh, she's
mm-hmm.
easy, right? Or if you're
Facts.
older, because that's something else that we don't talk about a lot, the older generation, they will naturally assume that you're just weak, that you're an easy target. And they prey on older people. And they also do this with younger people too, because they know younger people who grew up with social media, well, you care about how you look, right? Well, don't you
Mm-hmm.
want to do this because this is what everybody's into? It's a trend. You would be the hottest thing. So they
Mm-hmm.
play on these things based off your age, your demographic. They will discriminate against you because of your age, because of your race, which we all know. We've seen this with Black people when it comes to, loans and all these type of things. So you're easily being manipulated into things to feel like you have no choice but to do that, which sucks.
Facts.
It sucks.
I agree. I agree again wholeheartedly. Okay. With that manipulation happening, Taki was in some difficult and compromising positions. Was there
Very.
any point that you felt he would meet his demise, and why? And I already know where you're gonna go. I already know where you're gonna go.
Listen,
You
the
starting at the
two
beginning.
times, the very beginning, I was like,
Yes.
you got. dude is he gone. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, he was all in. I'm thinking this demon having a grand old time with him. She's like, shoot, I not only am I getting a good exercise out of him, but I also got what I needed out of him, and I'm gonna kill this guy. Like this was
Mm-hmm.
the thing. Like she was like, this is a three for. I'm about to do a hat trick on this. So I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking, dude was done because when he laid his head on her chest, like he was going into that pillow talk mode.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dude, done. But
Yeah.
he had a way, and he dude did that whole push off. I was like, I don't know what he pushed off with, but he pushed off with something to get out of the way of those teeth, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that initially was going to probably be the first time, but then I was like, okay, well, clearly he knows what he's doing. But he keeps putting himself into these same situations over and over again. So then, like the other time when he had the other demon who was telling him to, hey, join, come into my portal, and dude was like
Mm.
going, he went cold blank stare and was like, I mean, like, dude, again, I'm thinking, oh, he's got again. He just see this girl over here, you know, having everything done to her under the sun, and he starts going in like, oh, I guess this is it. But he snapped out of it yet again. So that just proves his will was a little bit stronger than it. So I was really worried, to be completely honest with you, when I
Mm-hmm.
watched this the first time, because this is my second time watching it, but the first time I watched it, I was really worried that Maki was going to be some type of like switcheroo on him because like he really started caring for her. He's like, I gotta go get her. I gotta go wherever she is because they're showing this portal on the ground. Like, hey, she's getting
Yeah.
everything done to her, like everything,
Yeah.
right? And I'm thinking, oh, he gonna go there. It's gonna be a trick, and he's gonna be like this chick. But it didn't happen, and so I was just really worried for a long time that she was gonna end up tricking on him in the end, but she didn't. So, but I mean, he had several instances where he was just not thinking it through, or like when they came into the hotel where Mr. Myard was the first time, and they were breaking through the walls. I'm thinking, dude, dead again because he got slammed
Mm-hmm.
into the wall, and I was like, well, that's it. But he
Mm.
didn't, and like each time he kept coming back. But I was thinking they really were trying to show what his limits were as a human, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, I do feel like in some of those situations, one, he could have not been in that situation to begin with, but two, they really overplayed this idea that he can overcome any obstacle. And to me, I'm like, that doesn't really make any sense because old dude in that first part should have been God, or at least a part of him, and we know what part I'm talking about, should have been bitten off, but it
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
Especially if
Okay.
he's
All
supposed to be
right.
well endowed. You get what I'm saying? Like if he's supposed to be well endowed, a piece should have been like
Should have
snipped
been
off,
off
but it
there.
wasn't.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Unless he
Now,
shrunk in because of fear. You get what I'm saying? Shrinkage type of a thing. So, but I'll leave it at that.
okay, okay. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Taki was very, very easy to manipulate it. So I thought he was gonna die when he went over there when they were again showing the portal of them pretty much filling every orifice on Maki. Like,
Every hole,
yeah,
man.
they again, this was
Like,
over sexualized. Everything on here was over sexualized. It was going crazy on here. So when he went over there for her, he went to save her. And Myra told him, "What are you doing? Like he's in a wheelchair, get rolled out there." He like, "Yo, what are you doing right now? You need to stay here. You're supposed to be doing your job, guarding me, not worrying about her." But this
he
goes back to the
said,
same thing. He was getting manipulated.
hey,
So he's going over there to do that. He gets the blind stare. He's looking at this woman with the vagina in her chest,
just
and
talking.
he was able to pull out. He pulled out literally. He pulled
You get
out.
what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, pun intended. Pun intended. And then
He sure did.
he shot her right open, blew her in half, which also was a crazy little thing. I feel like that
He
was their plan
busted
upon
wide
something the
open, is
size of
what
the
he
gun.
did.
You notice that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So um he to me, I feel like he was gonna die at least 2 to 3 times. That was one. That was a main one, and definitely when they had went into the first spiritual place, which they was like,
Oh,
oh, this is it's has a barrier that's 4 times higher than what the demons can handle, and they turned that shit into dust. I was like, yeah, get out of here. We
yeah.
coming.
Right.
Turns out old boy was Maki's ex. He in there, and he having his way with her,
Hey.
taking a few liberties and stuff like that.
Right. She
So
almost choked him out with the hair, though. You gotta give her that.
that's a fact. But at the same time, where was Taki at? He was leaning against the wall, knocked out. I thought he was
Imprinted.
almost dead. And this was all for what? To protect Meyer. But I feel like he was being manipulated because as soon as he saw Maki for the first time, he was like, oh wow, your beauty is undeniable, something I've never seen
Yeah.
before. So as I said, he has a weakness, and his weakness was women. He was more of a playboy than worrying about being a blackguard. So watching that, I felt like he was going to be done real fast. And it was funny because he's doing all this to protect my art. At the same time, he's trying to
Yes.
make his move, I'm going to say, with Maki, because I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of tell their interaction. But
Mm-hmm.
he's being manipulated, and he's still trying to, balance like both sides, and he still got his
Mm-hmm.
ass whooped on, when it all happened.
Several
So
occasions. It was handed to
yeah,
him. You know what
I
else is
thought he
the
was
other thing
done.
against me with Mr. Meyer though? What I was cracked up at is like in the scene with the hotel, right?
Yeah.
When they're fighting, old dude snuck out the window. So he
Yo.
was like, I gotta go to the Playboy place down the street.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see y'all later.
Yo, that
And I'm
was
thinking,
crazy.
dude, you know you might die and you going out to go look at some TNA. So that to me was something else. So I was just like, okay. I felt like when you think about what he was trying to do in the end,
Mm-hmm.
it made sense why he left, right? Because he was like, I'm gonna leave because I know who's coming,
Yep.
and this is gonna be an opportunity for Taki to be the white knight in shining armor. Like this
Facts.
is his moment. So I felt like that was something that he like when you watch it, you're like, oh, okay, now I see. I
Yeah.
see why he left. Why? I
Yeah.
mean, he was going because he wanted to go, but he was also trying to set it up so he could be the savior in this
Mm.
situation.
Hmm. Well, again, I think that personally, I knew Taki was already like where he wanted to be with Maki just based upon
He
that
was
first
like,
interaction.
and
Yeah,
then he's like, hey,
yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
girl, you good
So
with your little extensions that you cutting
the
people in
nails
half. He's
right
like,
there.
girl,
I see
right?
you.
He's like, girl,
So
yes.
that's again a perfect segue. Can we love someone that we are not supposed to be with? Air quotes. We ain't supposed to be with.
So then you
And
have to
that's the huge
define.
conversation.
I would say, what you got to define. You know, you should keep us both on here. You should
Okay,
define.
okay.
You should define what you mean by not supposed to be with,
Hmm. All right, so
because
I'm gonna use both examples. I'm gonna use both examples. I'm gonna use us as humans with ethnicities and cultures. You're supposed to stay with your
oh
own, right?
yeah, yeah.
and then the other side in this movie where humans aren't supposed to mess with demons. So
Ooh,
I'll
listen.
let you answer that. You want me to leave both screens up?
Yeah, leave both screens because I
All right,
feel
go
like this
ahead,
is
go
going to be a
ahead.
good one because we could play off of each other on this one. So I think in this regard, if you think about who you're not supposed to like, when you think about someone who's different, like you said, race. In this case, they're talking about humans versus demons, or in our case, in
Mm-hmm.
the real world, we're thinking about different races like black and white, black and Hispanic, black and Asian, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all know that there are people out in the world who believe that we should stay with our own kind,
Yep.
right? We know this. We absolutely know this. But I think the thing is that when you think about us as humans and what is alluring to us, things that speak to us, that may be everything that you're looking for, but it may not be in a person who's of the same race as you or same
Mm.
background, same financial status, right? Because there's also those things that go into it as well. And so you
Facts.
have to say to yourself, do you deny the feelings that you have and the possibility of being happy with this person just because they're different, right? Now, of course, you do have individuals, and we've talked about, and we've had conversations about this, with our and collectively offline, with this
Yes,
whole
yes.
idea of being pro-black when we think about that, and we think about
Yeah.
interracial dating. And I do think that that's always a touchy subject because you're always going to have people on either side of it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you have people who are like biracial who say, well, if you think about that, then I don't really matter when it comes to being pro black. Like, I don't matter because I am half white and half black. So, where do I fit into this equation? Because the way that you guys are putting it, I don't really matter, right? Like, you exist,
Mm-hmm.
but, we're going to stay over here. So,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I was raised in the sense of when you think about people, you base them on their character. What does their
Facts.
character say? Because you can have people who are black, and we have seen it, and this is why they say, you know, well, how the saying go? Every skin folk ain't
All
all a
skin folk
kinfolk.
ain't kinfolk.
Exactly. So when you think about that, that's a big thing because we think about back in the day when our ancestors, when they were slaves, and we're going to talk about it, when they were slaves, you had people who were of our kind, black people who were selling each other out. Why? Because they were trying to get into the good graces of massa at this point.
Facts.
And here it is, there's someone who looks like you, right? And you're like, but they are not for you, right? And then you have instances where, like during the civil rights movement, when they were doing the bus riots at that point when they were doing the bus boycott, and they were doing the that one bus that got firebombed, and there was a white guy that was on the bus, and he said, "I'll stay and get their attention so you
Yep.
guys can get away." So you
Yep.
think about those instances, or think about like Bernie Sanders, who has been a long, advocate for Black rights and just Black people in general, and just people
Hmm.
overall, but also for the Blacks for the civil rights movement. You think about that. He's a white guy.
Yep.
He has always stood on the other side where he's like, no, I know the injustices that are being served. I have always been able to skate by, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to continue to push that narrative. So when you think about this whole idea of who you're not supposed to be with, the question becomes, why is that? Why are you not allowed to be with that person? Is it because of, what society is telling, or is it because that person just really is a piece of shit? Is that the
Hmm.
reason why? Like, let's really be honest about it, right? Is it because this person doesn't really care about you or about humans or about your race, about your family, whatever the case may be? Like, that's who you're not supposed to be with. People who are cruel, people who are disrespectful, right? People who make bad decisions. Those are ones you're not supposed to be with. Sure, you may
Hmm.
find them interesting, but those are types of people you shouldn't be with. But if it's because of your race, socioeconomics, whatever the case may be, hell, an alien, I mean, come on, you never know. You might end up finding, like they were saying with the demon girls, you might find out, hey, you went to a whole another heavenly state when you got with this person. You may never know. So that's my take on it. I think that you have to sit back and think about it. But I think a lot of people are now starting to see that a little bit more. And I think people are
Yeah.
starting to judge people more on character. But we still have some of history that's still playing a part. And I'm not going to sit here and lie. Being a
Mm-hmm.
light skinned Black woman, I've had things play in my favor because of colorism. And I'm not going to sit here and act like that isn't the case, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I still think at the same time, I don't knock a person when they say that they only date Black, because that's your choice. That is
Right.
your choice. And you were putting Black people in a higher level than most other people in the world will put us. So I'm not
Right.
going to knock you for that, right? I think it's a beautiful thing. But don't assume that when some of us do date outside of our race, that we are self-hating Black people, right? That we would not give a person who is Black an opportunity, because that's not the case, right? Like, that's
Hmm.
not the case at all. So that's my little soapbox tirade, but
No, I like
I'll
it.
I'll
I
keep
love
quiet
it.
on
I
that.
love it. And I'm a bounce right off it. So I'm gonna go to the movie aspect first, and I'm gonna build on
Yeah,
our situation. As far as this movie, the same thing applies. He wasn't supposed to be with the demon because that's what society says. But again, that applies in reality. Now, with in this story, Taki and Maki could have been together based upon everything that they had that were compatible with each other. Forget about where they came from, forget about their background, their culture, who raised them, all this stuff. They
right,
had a lot more in common, and their love couldn't be blocked. That right there
right,
was deep. That spoke volumes to me. So when I look at reality, I go through the same thing myself. I'm Black. I'm for Black people, but it doesn't mean that I'm so for Black people that I can't see somebody who will treat me good or love me for who I am, despite the color of their skin. Now, the deeper conversation will be, how do you feel about, oh, why would you marry someone outside of your culture or whatever? In my case, my wife is of Puerto Rican descent. That's part of my diaspora as far as I'm concerned, especially
hey,
considering the things that they have on the native land, whether it be drums, etc. Now, there's some of them, if you're talking about like Cubans or Puerto Ricans or even Dominicans, if the lighter ones, yeah, they might not identify because of what they've been taught with that whiteness, that whole social
post white,
construct has
post
taught
white.
them, yes, that white is better. Now, I'm not hearing all that, but what I do make sure I do when it comes to that aspect is my wife loves me, she respects me, but my kids also understand who they are. So when we're talking about who you're supposed to be with, my kids are young, 12, 11, and 8. If they decide that they want to grow up and marry, a white girl, whatever, I don't care. Or my
Mm,
daughter marries a white man, I don't care.
mm. Speak
All
on
I
it.
care about is they respect who is. I mean, excuse me, the person respects them and treats them right. If they don't, then we having a different conversation. Now, in the
Yes.
same token, I would love for that extended family, meaning the parents and the brothers and sisters of this individual, to have the same like mind as the person that they're dating. That right there happens to be the dilemma in most cases when you talk about that, because then people are saying, "Oh no, you're not supposed to be together," and they might treat you bad. But see,
Oh yeah.
I've watched this literally. I've personally watched instances where someone's family is like, "Oh, we don't date Black people," but then the grandchild
Mhm.
comes along. and that just changes the whole
Whole thing.
conversation. Now they're in love with this child and they can't help it. See, if you look past the social, you look past the physical, we have a lot of things in common. Yeah, there's a lot of negative people out there. It doesn't matter what cultural background they come from, but the reality is, underneath all this, we are the same. But the
Yep.
question is, how does that person that looks different from you treat you? So in this case of this movie, the person that looked different, well, it actually didn't look different, but that was supposed to be different, was the same as him. They had like minds, they
Yep.
had like goals, and
Yep.
they couldn't be separated, period, because their love was deeper than what anyone can define. It was deeper than what anybody can manipulate. They already knew what
Yep.
it was. And the same thing applies in life. If you find somebody that's going to treat you right, love you for who you are, and respect you, be with them. Forget about all the other stuff. Period. And that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. And yes, I'm pro-black, but it doesn't mean I'm so pro-black that I can't be with somebody who loves me for me.
I'll
Period.
tell you this much: according to some people, you are not. According to
I
some,
know, and that's
you
cool.
are not.
We can have that argument. I don't
Hey,
care. I
I
do
agree
not
with you.
care. It is what it is.
It
It is what
is
it is.
what it is.
Yeah. All right. So here's another one then. If you were in this story, would you rather be a human or a demon, and why?
Demon, demon,
All
hands
right. Now
down.
you gotta tell me why. Now I'm gonna put it
Let
on you.
me
I gotta.
let me tell you why. Think about this. Look about this. You have the ability to heal, right? The ability to heal, to have body parts of you that get exploded off and can still live. You have the ability to still look human and
Mm-hmm.
still partake in human things, but you have these other aspects about you that make you extra. You get what I'm saying? Like super speed,
Yep.
enhanced capabilities. Who wouldn't want to be? Honestly,
Yep.
who wouldn't want to be? I mean, you literally could blend in with the other parts of human society and no one would have a different, like, no one would know. No
Mm-hmm.
one would know. So to me, I'm like, who wouldn't want that right now? Of course, when we think about it in from our current society, and when we think about demons, demons are always associated with evil. They're always
Yes.
associated with hell. They're always associated with being banished, right? Because they went against God. But in this regard, they didn't really. They were only calling them that because of how they looked, right? Because they had teeth in places that they shouldn't. Because they had capabilities that they shouldn't, like the one who looked like a spider, right? I mean, these are things that really made them look and feel different from humans. But honestly, because of what they had, I'd be like hands down demon because it seemed like they could live for a long time. They could
Mm-hmm.
heal. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And you're beautiful on top of it. Like every last one of them was supposed to be like drop
Facts.
dead gorgeous. And I'm like, who would not want that? You're
Facts.
perfect. Perfect.
Facts. Okay. I like that. And I agree. Again, I agree with you. I think that if I was in that reality, I want to be a demon as well. I wouldn't want
Right.
to live forever or a super long life, but I would want the aspect of being able to heal and have different special abilities. For example, I like vampire books. If I and most of the time, if there's a vampire book, it's going to have wolves in there as well, werewolves. If I had to
Yep.
choose
Lycans.
between both of them, I'd be a vampire in
Mm.
a heartbeat. So in this case, I'd take being a vampire. I'd figure out a way where I didn't have to drink blood of humans and then, make my life
Nah.
that way. And they live for a long time. But the only bad part about that is they can't be exposed to, excuse me, sunlight. Now, in this movie,
Blade.
I,
Blade. Think about
yeah,
that.
Blade is
Blade.
perfect example. He's a perfect example. So in
And he
this
was black.
movie, oh, listen, that's another conversation right there. But in this movie, they didn't show any weaknesses like being exposed to sunlight. The only weaknesses
Nope.
they can die, they can get blown up. But if you had the ability to regenerate, like two or three of them did, then you can keep regenerating even after
That's
you're
what I'm
injured.
saying.
So
I mean, it
yeah,
took
I'd be a demon.
hours. Yeah, it took a couple of hours, but it's like I came back. I was like Wolverine or Deadpool. Like I came
Yes,
back. Like
yes,
that to me is like who would not want that? I could cut off an arm and like a couple hours later have it back. I'm set.
right.
Yeah, and you know what to talk about when you said about vampires? You wouldn't want to drink blood. I'm like, I'll drink blood. I'll just go after the bad humans and like eliminate them. But that would be my thing. Like, yeah, I could say I literally like you can't kill me, but I can take out the evil people in the world. Oh, it's a wrap.
So
It's a
pretty
wrap.
much you would be the Dexter of vampires.
Yep. I'd be like, this is easy. This is easy. I'd be like, you can find out who's doing some crazy stuff and take them
Yeah,
out, eliminate the evil of the world. Simple.
I'm with
It'd
you
be
on
easy.
that. I'm definitely with you on
Easy.
that. All right, here's my closing question for us, and then after this, we're gonna just free Free falling.
Free
All right.
ball.
Do you think there's a pact between humans and someone slash something else?
In the real world,
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you're thinking about it from a religious aspect, yes. For people
Okay.
who do believe, there is a pact. They made a pact with God that they are going to dedicate their lives to Him and His mission and His message, and that they are going to try to live that to the fullest until their end is met, right? And in the end, if they're able to live a good life, right, and also their sins are forgiven, then they'll be able to kind of reap the benefits of that. So I do think that there
Mm-hmm.
is a pact that is there, right? If you also think about a pact in the sense of making strong commitments to someone, you could see that with marriage. So you
Mm-hmm.
make a you make a pact with someone else and hey, we're going to do this together. I'm committed to you. You're committed to me. That's
Facts.
something that I think we do. If you think about blood pacts, there are those type of things as well. But we also think about it from a parent to a child. For good
Mm.
parents, I should say, that you do make a pact with your child that I'm going to take care of you and educate you so that when you become an adult and you make your way out into this world that you've been equipped with the right stuff that's needed to be successful. I don't want to
Yes.
influence you your whole life, but I do want to give you the tools that you need. Like a good parent would be like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will give you heads up when I see you going down the wrong path, or let you know that if you choose to go down this path, these are things that can happen. But you
Mm-hmm.
should never try to push anything on your child, right? A certain way that they should look, a certain way that they should act. You should try to press upon them to be respectful,
Mm-hmm.
to be kind, but you should not be pushing upon them, you need to be a doctor. And I've seen so many parents have done that. A doctor, a lawyer, something along those lines. The kid's not happy. They're just not happy. Or you're putting them in such a small, confined box that the kid acts out, and you can't understand why the child is going out the deep end. Well, you try to shield them from everything of the world instead of educating them on it.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are going to always come into some type of contact where there's alcohol, drugs, sex. Don't hide that from them. Tell them that it's out there. Let them be aware of that. So when they get into these situations or they see it going to that, that they know how to do that. So I think there's a
Facts.
lot of things we are making pacts on. But it just depends. Like I think like with the religious aspect of it, like I think it's really interesting because a lot of times there's always this idea that I know there's something for me on the other side. And a lot of times religious people like to give atheists a hard time and say, well, you don't, what are you living for? And it's like, I'm living to be just to be a good person just because. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing it because I know that God's got me at the end. I'm doing it because you're human. You should be treated with respect. You should be treated with love, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should get help when I see that you need help. Not because I'm like, oh, it's a good thing to do and the Lord told me to do it. Like that's just something I think is very interesting about that whole
Right.
conversation. But I do think that there are many, many instances where we do have pacts that are being created.
I like that. I'm gonna say this. If you pay attention to books, movies, and a lot of time in movies, in TV series as well, the people who are making these movies, etc., they always slide some truth in there. Now, the average person that's just watching just for entertainment purposes, you might not pick up on certain aspects that they drop in, certain things they're putting in your face to make sure or to test and see how you're going to react. But yes, I agree that there's a pact between us and someone or something else based upon my reading, my studying, and just being experiencing things in life. You realize that there's a bigger world outside of just us, and there's a lot of different things that go on in this world and in this universe besides us. And I think that this movie kind of displayed that perfectly. Like they literally showed, okay, well, here you have us as humans, and then on the other side, quote unquote, you have demons. And like I said, these demons weren't necessarily all bad, but that's what they were trying to show. But they had a pact or a bond that they had and a treaty to respect that, listen, this is our boundary, this is yours. You can come in, mingle with us, etc., but make sure it's
Have
respectful.
your fun.
Yeah, you can have your fun. You can go to the Playboy shops and all that stuff,
Hmm.
but keep it
Hmm.
respectful. Don't take nothing you ain't supposed to take and live like that. So when I watch it, I can relate to that because I think that that happens. And even like you said, just us in general, it doesn't even have to be that metaphysical aspect. It can just be a basic thing where, all right, I don't like you, you know, you don't like me. So I'm a conservative Republican. I don't like black people. And I'm talking about
Oof.
conservative, real deep South. We
Yes.
don't like niggers out here. We don't like
Yeah,
y'all. We're
yes.
gonna go on
Black
that
folk.
aspect. But at the same time, they'll say, you know what, you good, just don't come over here at this time. All right, cool. I know what it is. I know I'm gonna stay away from you. So
Yep.
absolutely, we have that same thing. We have pacts, and it happens every day. It's always in our life. So here's what it is. And
Yeah.
with that being said, we're gonna wrap it up. D couldn't make it. He did message and say that he had some things going on. I know you might not have gotten the text, but he could make it. But we're gonna
Yes, he
show
said traffic.
facts. This is what we're talking about next week. Next week, excellence. If you haven't
Love
read
it.
it, you got to go get it. We're only reading volume one. It's a
Yes.
very, very good
So,
storyline.
looking at the cover,
Yeah.
it looks like it's two black guys. I mean, is that
Listen, yes, it is.
am I seeing black people in a graphic novel?
Yes, you are. It's
Ooh,
all
I
us
love
in
it.
there. It's all us, and you already know what they trying to represent. That's juice
I'm
right
getting
there.
juice vibes. I was gonna say I'm getting
Yeah,
juice vibes, man.
yeah.
Like, hey, so somebody gonna get shot in the elevator.
See, it ain't that hood, but it's some things
Dang it.
going on there. It's very interesting. So
Now, is
we're
it
gonna talk
modern
about that.
time or in the future?
Mix of both. It's a mix of
Ooh,
both.
because we had that conversation about black
Mhm.
people in the future. So
Like
if you
it
got
ain't
something like
future,
this,
future, but it's it's
it's
a
there.
little bit.
Okay,
Yeah, when you
okay,
read it, you'll see what I'm talking about, and it's nice. It's they're gonna get into it. We still got cell phones and all that stuff, so there's some things happening in there,
okay,
definitely. But
okay.
as always, listen, we appreciate everybody stopping out here today. It was a very good live. I appreciate my co-host, KinkySudz, aka the Queen of Cosplay on a Budget.
You
Me,
know,
myself, Ren, aka Mr. Refine, aka BlackBeerdedNerd. We thank everybody for coming out. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend and tell a friend and show some
tell a
love every
friend, tell
Friday.
a friend.
And
Yes,
facts, we here every Friday, 8
every
o'clock,
Friday.
being black, being nerds, Blerds. And thank y'all for
Blurbs.
stopping by. Cheers to next Friday, y'all.
I know. Cheers. Have a good weekend.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.